Well, thank you all for being here. I am very grateful. Um, I think one of my worst nightmares was going to a sharing meeting and have like 3 people there. Because of course it reflects on how good am I, you know? Um, a couple of things I have to say. This program, ACA, ACOA, ACO, whatever name they're going to give us, has given me a life. And I'm very grateful. If you're a newcomer, it's not going to take you a year or two. It'll take you the rest of your life. And that's a promise. And that's a blessing. I have never in a meeting shared much of what I lived, mostly because I've shut it all down so well that it didn't really impact my memories. I began ACA in 2015. I drove to 2 meetings a week. They were great meetings, and I did not do the work. I had my big red book. I listened, I shared, I identified, and then COVID hit. And I'm very grateful that it did. I was able to go to 2 meetings a day, maybe more if I wanted. I met people that have been constant in my life since then. I've met many of those people in real life, in person, face to face, and it only gets better for me when I meet someone I love on a screen. The fact that they are just as good or better in real life. But I have to honestly say, this is my 4th year. I have my birthday, I consider March of 2020. That's when I began the work. And every day I realize that I have an aha moment, and something else has become obvious to me, something that I didn't know before. About 2 weeks ago, I was journaling, and I journal and never look back. I never reread anything that I journal, good, bad, or ugly. I just don't. I'm journaling away about how my inners, all of them are kind of we're in unison now. And I was breaking down the inners, and it occurred to me, I remember, I know what I was doing. I was writing a little blurb for my reunion page. And I said in that how traumatic it was for me leaving in October of my sophomore year of high school, my high school that had the same amount of students in it as my class did in my new high school. So my father came back from Vietnam, 14 months abandoned, came back, and we moved to Washington, D.C., McLean, Virginia. And I moved into a high school with 2,000 students versus 200 students. And it was extremely, extremely painful for me. I hadn't even thought about it until I was journaling, until I was producing that little blurb for the paper. And so to have the father, who I'll go into in a minute, I adored, go away for 14 months. We got a letter a month, maybe. That was way before even phone calls, and certainly before Zooms or FaceTimes or anything. To come home more screwed up than ever, having been left for 14 months with my rager mom, shut down, neglectful, whatever mom, and get thrown into an environment where I knew nobody, and I was hurt. And I hadn't even looked at that part of my existence. So now I realized at that point that there was a 12 to 15-year-old part inner that has been sitting there waiting this whole time to be acknowledged. It was like, of course, somebody was there for me. You know, from the shut down 7-year-old to the rebellious fuck you teenager, there was somebody else in the middle, and I hadn't even thought about that. That's an awareness that comes to fruition from the program. And it's not just the program, it's working the program. You gotta work the program. You gotta give service. You have to do the steps. You have to read the big red book. You have to do with your fellow travelers that important part. So I wanted to share a little bit about where I come from. And if ACA didn't have the name alcoholics in this, I probably would not have come. I know that there's many that feel the exact opposite. But when I looked back at my family of origin, it didn't seem that dysfunctional. It didn't seem, I wasn't aware of neglect and rager abuse from two alcoholics. And yet it's there. And so my dad, Jay, is the son of a coal miner, was the son of a coal miner. And he graduated high school at the age of 16, and he joined the Army, and he went to officers candidate school, and he scored so high they sent him to West Point. So he's at West Point. He's doing a wonderful job. And I have to say that my dad, Jay, was the best people pleaser I ever met. He was phenomenal. He was an alcoholic, but he didn't, to my remembering, drink in the beginning daily or weekly. I don't remember when, because when my dad drank, he became an even nicer, sweeter, more loving, more affectionate person. He became that warm individual that you know and love. My mom, from alcoholism, and I'm talking generational, both of them, and her mother was a preacher. She was a perfectionistic, narcissistic. Both my grandmothers were narcissists. And that's where my mom came from. She went to camp one year, and they brought her home from camp, and they put her on the doorstep because no one was home. And her family had moved 2 blocks away and never told the camp. And she sat there for 3 or 4 hours. And she told me this story in a kind of a way like it didn't really destroy her. I was okay with it. But I thought, how could you be okay with coming home from camp into a house that has no more family in it? And then, oh, somebody remembered, oh, Grace is being delivered from camp, so we better go pick her up. And they did. My father forgot me at the movie theater more than once. He was supposed to pick me up, got drunk, came to get me after 2 or 3 hours as I'm waiting outside someplace for someone to come pick me up. And these things for me, until I realized the damage that had been done to me, were just kind of like, a part of life. Until I started realizing that they had done permanent damage to Gretchen. I am permanently damaged. I can, let me rephrase that. I don't want to get better. I want to be able to embrace who I am, how I got here, how I'm going to change, and who I can become now. So I wrote these few things, which one, who I was, how I got there, why I need to find my true self, how I started looking for my true self, how I got to be my true self, who I am, who am I, and what's my purpose, and how did I get here? So those changes, if you will, in who I am are what I am so grateful for. I know now, and I can look at this book, and I can oh my God, today's reading, the 5th step. Every day, someone says or sends or shows me something. Look, Gretchen, look, look, let me send you this little blurb I got. And it's like, boom, that was for friggin' me. Somebody produced that little piece just for me today. Yesterday might not have been the same. I wanted to share something that on page in the Big Red Book, it's under the doctor's opinion in the beginning. It's on Roman numeral 27. Right after Claudia B's beautiful intro as well. And this is a doctor who wrote this. Now, this was my book was published in 2006. It's still there, I believe, in the new ones. So he says in a part of his paragraph, over the past decades, research and clinical practice have verified the detrimental effects of growing up in a traumatic and hurtful family. And since 1978, when ACA was founded, countless adult children of alcoholics and trauma have slowly worked their programs of recovery, a nugget of which you are now holding in your hands as the first edition of the ACA Big Book. We have learned several important things. Most families across the world are dysfunctional, in that they don't provide and support the healthy needs of their children. What results is an interruption in the otherwise normal and healthy neurological and psychological growth and development of the child from birth to adulthood. He says it right there. That's it. It is, and whatever point in my growth from childhood to adulthood, and I know there are many of them, was Gretchen stunted. My growth was stunted. He goes on to say, in order to survive, the traumatized child's true self, the child within, my 7-year-old, goes into hiding deep within the unconscious part of its psyche. What emerges is a false self or ego, which tries to run the show of our life. but is unable to succeed simply because it is a defense mechanism against pain and not real. Its motives are based more on needing to be right and in control. It goes on and on and on, full of wonders. The goals of stage 2 work include, I'll just read this and then I'll go on. 1, realizing our true self. This is, again, the goals of stage 2 work include realizing our true self, grieving our ungrieved hurts, losses, and traumas. 3, finding and fulfilling our healthy needs. And 4, working through our core recovery issues. I can't even tell you how many times I read that before it jumped out at me. And that's also because as I get recovered every day in some small way, I see the same thing I read yesterday with a new understanding. 7 years old, my first real memory of my life was when they brought my sister home from the hospital. I have 2 brothers between there, and my mother had a miscarriage after the second brother before my sister. Honestly, I can tell you 3 monumental events in my life before the age 7 where I got spanked with a hairbrush because I had done something pretty bad. I don't know why the hairbrush spanking stopped. I don't know why, but my father used to spank me with a hairbrush on my ass, 3 or 4 hits, whatever. And at 7, my sister came home from the hospital and I was born. That's my memory. I remember her in the bassinet. That, I guess, was my purpose at that point in life. That 7-year-old was a false self. That 7-year-old morphed into being people-pleasing, enabling, soft. I can say now that I never had any distinct plans, feelings, hopes, dreams. No. I was put there to help my sister exist and survive. And again, I say it again. I had 2 brothers. I don't have any problem with them, but they don't hold that place in my heart. So going through life with 2 dysfunctional alcoholics who, and I just read recently, I don't need to forgive them. I need to understand that they were simply raising me in the same way that they believed was right. They did. I realized that when I was 17, I had a nervous breakdown and I went to a psychiatrist. The school sent me to a psychiatrist because I had missed 80 days of school. And they said, if you miss any more school, Gretchen, we can't give you your diploma. What's going on? Some guidance counselor in the guidance office called me in, like, what's the matter? Why are you doing this? What's your problem? And I broke down into hysterical crying. And they called my parents in and sent me to a psychiatrist. My mother used to drive me there every Thursday night for months. I don't remember what he looked like. I don't remember what we talked about. I don't remember anything from that whole process in my life. At the end, he said to me, because I must have been saying my mother this, my mother that, my mother. And he said to me, it seems to me that you can't look at the part of what your father, I'm sure he didn't use the word abandonment, because when he had to go away for 14 months, I don't think he used the word abandonment, but that was the first time someone said to me, you got to look at your dad too. You got to look at what else is going on in your life. Of course, then they divorced and they left and they're this and then, but Gretchen already had made the fake person to exist. I had the control. I had the manipulation down pat. I had what I need. I picked who I wanted for my marriage. This is the person that'll work for having a family. And I just went through life like that. And I could have, I'm like, was the parish council president. I sang in the choir. And I lied and manipulated my neighbors so that if anything went wrong, it was always my ex who was like, oh, well, he's like, he gaslights, he's this, he's that. And when my son had his nervous breakdown or had his mental breakdown, and I felt that horrific pain, loss, grief, and tried to fix it because I'm a fixer. I'm in control. I can do this. And I couldn't fix it. I still can't fix it. And that grief made me realize, one, I didn't need Alan on because he was a pothead. No. I didn't need Alan on because people around me were dysfunctional. No. I needed ACA because I'm dysfunctional. And I began slowly to realize that I can and I am and I will get better. I have realized just recently, and I have said that I am not a drug addict or alcoholic or any addictive behaviors, because I always had to be in control. So if I snorted Coke 3 times and was like, nah, I'm out of control, I don't like it or whatever, never did it again. This is a different type of addiction. I'm addicted to control. Recently, through the program, I have to say, I am getting better. Through my recovery, I am getting better. I recently thought about, I started giving clothes away that I'm not wearing to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Nobody needs 30 fucking pair of leggings, but I have them. And I go to the store and I think, ooh, maybe I need another pair of leggings, because it's an addiction. Nobody needs to have 100 coffee pots or a coffee maker. Guess what? It's an addiction. Nobody has to have 10 pair of the same shoe because it's comfortable, it works, and I better buy them now because I won't be able to get them later. And that's the thing. What happens if I'm away and I have 6 pair of leggings with me and they all get dirty and I have nothing left? What am I going to do? What happens if My coffee pods are gone and I can't get any more. What am I going to do? So then I started looking at why is Gretchen like that? Why does Gretchen have to have that support system behind her, that she has the security of having those things? It's because I'm dysfunctional. I would be a hoarder if I didn't worry about what my children, especially my children, and others think about me. Seriously. I have a favorite pencil. This Bic thing. I have, without exaggeration, 30 of them in my house. God forbid I'm looking for my favorite pencil and can't find one. This is dysfunction. I can look at it now. I can understand where it came from. I can accept it in myself. I can get over it. I'm still going to have 30 pair of fucking leggings in my drawer. And don't get me wrong, I didn't go out and buy 30 pair of leggings. That's 6, 7 years of 2 or 3 leggings a year. Got to have, oh yeah, but I don't need them, but they make me feel better. I don't need to have 30 of my pencils, but it makes me feel better. One more thing on my dysfunction, and then I'll move on a bit. I have this. My daughter was going to give away an extra set of silverware. Now, silverware was something that my ex always considered frivolous. When I mean a nice, decent pair of silverware. Maybe I never had that growing up. I don't know. So I said to her, no, let me take it, because if I have company, I need extra silverware. Well, in that set, there was this nice serving spoon, perfect size, perfect feel, perfect everything. My brother's been living with me for 12, 13 years now. He had no place else to go. He's living with me. We have a good arrangement. Everything's fine. He used that serving spoon. He liked that serving spoon. I didn't use it because I had it saved for when people would come over and I needed a serving spoon. So I asked him, please, like, where's my serving spoon? Oh, it's in the dishwasher. Well, it does me no good in the dishwasher. Please don't use that serving spoon. Use any other serving spoon. I went away. I came back. My sister came over for dinner. Where's my serving spoon? It's in the dishwasher. My head exploded. My sister was like this. I'm like, oh, I fucking told you, don't touch my serving spoon. See, now it's in the dishwasher. This is my dysfunction. I said to him, just use any of the other serving spoons. When I want a serving spoon, I want it to be there. This is my dysfunction. And I can embrace it. I can accept it and move on. That is my recovery. And that is really big for me. It's really big, being able to accept and forgive myself. Now we move into the true self. I never had a favorite color. I never allowed myself to do artwork because it was never, ever good enough. And I can look at anybody else's artwork, even if it doesn't look good, and I'm like, it looks really good. Not my own. I only do things that I know that I can do well and get accolades for. Gee, Gretchen, you really did a good job. And if I'm not a good cook at something, I'll make sure that I can cook it better than you can so that I get that feedback. So I didn't have a favorite color. I never, ever made any decisions. Like, what movie would you like to go see? Whatever you want to see. I don't know. Like, I'm fine. What do you want to eat? Whatever you want to go. Where do you want to go? Whatever you want to do. I never, ever, I don't get up, even now today, get up in the morning and I know I have things I must do for my existence in my life. Those I'll do. I'll never get up and say, gee, you know what? I'd like to take a walk in the forest and look at the trees. No. If someone says to me, would you like to go take a walk in the trees in the forest? I'll be like, yeah, okay, sure, let's do it. I dated a fellow who was a sailor after my divorce. And I love to sail. I'm a good sailor. He's like, I said, oh, sailing's your passion. And he said, well, what's your passion? Guess what? I never had a passion. Never had a passion. I still don't really have a passion. My passion today is trying to live the purpose of my life. What is the purpose of my life? Why am I here? So I don't have a passion. And that's okay. I can't make myself have a passion. So now today's reading from this great book is step 5. And I'm bringing step 5 here because step 5 for me was the beginning of being honest and learning my true self. So this is on page 129 of Strengthening My Recovery, May 3rd. Step 5 is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, from the Big Red Book, page 190. Now, on that part, I've heard a lot of shares, a lot of people say, well, wait, my wrongs? What did I do wrong? Why am I defective? Why are those characteristics, those traits all about me? And for me, all those things I've just talked about are not my wrongs, but they are the things that I've carried with me with my dysfunction, my traits and everything. I can accept them. I can embrace them. I can learn to love myself in spite of those and laugh at the fact that I have 30 pair of leggings in my drawer. No, let me rephrase that. I have 30 pair of short leggings. I have another 30 pair of long leggings in the other drawer. It's okay. I can love that. I can accept it. So when it says the exact nature of my wrongs, that's right. They are my wrongs. It goes on, it says in step 5, for the first time, we came clean about our real feelings and walked away from it more whole than before. And the solution says, we'll learn we'll have a wholeness that we never knew was possible. Remember that? Hold on. It's like, so I love the solution. The solution. We awaken to a sense of wholeness we never knew was possible. That's what happens. We were not perfect, but that was okay. We allowed our higher power to guide us through our histories with new insight. We were validated by our fellow travelers in the process, and we now knew definitively that we had been wronged and that we no longer need to accept abusive behavior from others. This step took a lot of courage. We paused before going forward to reflect on how far we had come and to enjoy the view. In a sense, we had been reborn into self-awareness on a level we didn't know existed. We started to put ourselves first because we were worth it. No one could take this new foundation away from us because it was built on rock-solid pillars that could not be torn down by others anymore. We were gaining the inner strength necessary to face whatever was put in our paths. We were becoming free from those things that plagued us because we had been honest with our higher power and another person. We looked forward to connecting with our inner child as we progressed. That child was awakening and knew it would never be alone again. We were there to provide the nourishment, giving everything we had. On this day, I will be honest with the most important person I will ever get to know, me. That is the key to my recovery. I have never, ever been able to be completely intimate, never allowed myself to be vulnerable, to allow someone in that I could trust. And the reason is because I never, ever trusted myself. I can't be honest with another person if I'm not honest with myself. How can I give myself to another person? And it doesn't necessarily have to be intimate in the sense of a sexual relationship, intimate in the sense of being completely connected with someone else. If I can only do that through complete self-honesty, I have to look at myself and not take it as criticism, but as love. If I can look at myself in step 5, and I've done it completely 3 times, but each time I do it, it's new. It's an awareness. This is me. I can love me just the way I am unconditionally. I can accept these foibles, if you will, that I have. My inability to hang pictures that I want to hang that I have on the wall. I have an inability to trust myself still, but I can look at it and say, this is Gretchen, this is me. I accept it. And so when they say that, for me, to look at my wrongs are not good or bad, just who I am. I also love the fact that I'm the person I am today, that I went through, that I've done all this, that I know all this. It's who I am. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing that I know things that other people don't know. I've seen things that other people haven't seen. And they certainly have seen things that I haven't seen either. I can respect my sister's dog is barking downstairs. And let me just say that even someone I love as much as my sister, who is my part of my heart, I can set a boundary. I can tell her, I'm not watching your dog. And here I am watching her dog. I can say, I'll watch your dog, but I'm not happy about it. I can say no to her. I can be more and more every day who I want to be. I want to be my true self. Am I there yet? Nope, not there yet. Am I able to be vulnerable? Not completely. And I am okay with it. And the last part of this little lead share is that I know now that I have a higher power. I know that when my son had his third or fourth breakdown, and I was hysterically, that crying that's so vital that I didn't do my whole life. And she said to me, Gretchen, he has his own higher power. You have your higher power, he has his higher power. And that has been my saving grace, if you will. I know that I cannot heal him. I can't heal anybody. I can only try to make myself better. My higher power loves me unconditionally. That has allowed me to love myself unconditionally. I can, and I do this, if I'm sitting in my safe space, which is here in my room, I can send my higher power to sit with his higher power. I feel like it helps. I have sent my higher power, not often, a few times my higher power said, I want to go sit with that person's higher power. And I heard a speaker share, actually 2 or 3 speakers have mentioned that if your higher power isn't strong enough, you can borrow mine. And I thought, what a great gift to give to someone who needs you at that moment. And I've heard it from 2 or 3 powerful speakers, and it really made sense to me. So my time's about up, thank God, because I don't know where or how much longer I would have had to feel like I was sharing myself. And it's really been wonderful being with all of you and having you with me when I vocalize these things, because saying it out loud makes it real. So thank you. And I keep coming back because it works if you work it. And I keep coming back. Thank you. Thanks, Renee.